What are we talking about?
Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos just made a big trade, sending Russell Wilson to Denver. The Broncos got a lot back in return. They got Drew Lock, Noah Fant.
You mean the Seahawks?
The Seahawks, yes, I'm sorry.
I mean, the Broncos did get a lot in return, too, but...
the Broncos got a 4th-round pick, I believe, with Russell Wilson. And then Seattle got Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick.
I disagree. That's a lot for the Seahawks.
I thought you were going to disagree on the details of the trade. You're just being an asshole now.
No, I think it's an awful trade. I'll let Kyle.
Okay, you kept saying it was an awful trade, but I didn't know why. I didn't know what side you were saying it was awful from. That's why I thought you would save it.
Here's where I'm coming from with this. Jamal Adams was 2 first-rounders and a 3rd-round pick, and I believe the Jets had to give back a 4th. I'm not counting Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, and Noah Fant. Noah Fant maybe, but I'm really just counting the picks. It's basically like an extra 2nd from Jamal Adams. That's not enough.
So you're saying it's awful based on like the value we've already seen placed on players around the league.
Yes, and when you go Jalen Ramsey was basically something similar where you get 2 firsts. Like, I only care about the things that can help you in the long term when you're making a move that big, because you're giving up what you have now. You have to replace your quarterback. That takes a few years until he's up and running. Shelby Harris is 30 years old. He will not be there for the Broncos, and he's not a game changer either.
You mean Seahawks?
Seahawks, yeah.
Yes, for the Seahawks, sorry. Then you have Drew Lock. None of you guys pictured him being there for 2 years. They're 2 useless assets. Maybe Shelby Harris has trade value, but you don't trade for somebody just to trade them. It doesn't make sense to me. Drew Lock is worthless. He was a backup already. Then you have Noah Fant, which is a decent piece, but he's not like this guy I have to have.
Okay, here's what I will say. I agree with what you're saying there, but I also don't think they got those players back as a way to say like, all right, time to win. Even though you're saying, yeah, they're going to rebuild and those guys won't be there in a couple years. I think it's just about fielding. Those guys are there to like field the team now. You know what I mean? All right, let me get Drew Lock in return, so we got a quarterback that we could roll with this year. Let's get a piece like Noah Fant, whatever. But
I will say
to me, it's more about the picks. Remember, Seattle didn't have shit in terms of picks.
But also, those 2 more things I want to add. First of all, they can't draft. And the people who can't draft are in charge of fixing the team now. That's a major red flag. They're also the same ones who made a poor evaluation on Jamal Adams. Second of all, I always agree with the philosophy. If you think somebody's good on your team and you have to trade them, you want to send them outside the conference. Only if all other deals are equal. Apparently, according to rumors, Washington was offering more. At a certain point, you have to stop caring about others and care for
about
yourself.
The conference. I get what you're saying.
And
so do you know what Washington was offering? Because I didn't hear that.
It was at least 3 first-round picks. And the thing is, when you look at the Seahawks, you have to get a quarterback. And when the first-round picks are this year, there is no quarterback that looks like it's worth a top 10 pick.
Malik Willis looks great.
And the thing is, if he looks like a top 10 pick, you have 10 other teams that can probably beat you for him.
Is one of the first-round picks this year?
It's this year and next year, but those are the only 2 first-rounders. If you need a trade for one next year, you only have a first-round pick to do it. Doesn't mean you'll have the most. You just have extra.
You're also giving them...
I mean, they have 2 second-round picks as well. If they, let's say they identified Malik Willis as the guy, and they were like, you know what, we'll trade a team our first and second next year to jump wherever they got to move to get him. They have the assets now to do that, but
they basically just turn themselves into the Giants, a bad team with draft capital.
See, here's where I disagree. One, I don't get the idea that Seattle's bad at drafting. I think they have struggled and missed some picks, but they drafted Russell Wilson. They drafted
a decade ago.
Yeah, I think after they hit on Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, they were drafting really well back then, which is now goes back almost a decade.
2014 was the last time they had a good draft.
Yeah, so since then, I think they just got overconfident, and whenever they thought they found their guy, they were like, we don't care what pundits and experts say. We're taking Rashad Penny in the first round, even if we could get him in the third. That is a big issue, and so they've drafted pretty poorly since then. But
I've always felt that Seattle's screw up really was giving big contracts to players that weren't guys that you give big contracts to besides Russell Wilson. Like when they were like, all right, let's give not just Bobby Wagner but Earl Thomas this kind of money, and let's give Cliff Averill, and you're like, you don't need all those guys. You need to replace some of them in the draft for cheaper. You need to keep the people that protect Russell Wilson. You need to keep offensive linemen, not a linebacker that can't cover. So he's essentially a 2-down player. But for Denver, this is going all in. For Seattle, if they like Malik Willis and they have Denver's number 9, they probably can get him at 9. I think Willis isn't a day one starter, very similar to like what you would do with Mahomes or what you would do with some of these younger quarterbacks, especially because you went to Liberty. Sit him for a year, which is why you have Drew Lock. See if you can win with that. Sometimes it is a change of scenery. Tannehill, sometimes it's the guy's broken. Sam Darnold. If I'm Denver, it's 100% the right trade. If I'm Seattle, I don't know what other people were offering. I mean, you get 2 firsts, you get a top 10 pick this year. There's a good chance that Denver might be bad next year. They were 4th place team. And that AFC West is you still got to go through Mahomes.
That's why it's really tough. It's like, all right, I get it. You've been dying to get this quarterback. And their defense was one of the top defenses last year. They have weapons. They have Judy. They have Sutton. Javonte Williams looked good. They might bring back Melvin Gordon for a nice 1-2 punch. Cool. I think they could be better than the Raiders. The Chargers, I think they could play them tough. I don't want to count them out, right? But I think they got enough to compete if that was the goal. But I still don't see them winning the division.
I can see it. The Chiefs defense, I don't think it's going to be that great, especially with Mahomes' contract really starts coming up. They're going to have to let some people walk. Denver can go anywhere. They could be 4th place. They could be 1st. I really do believe that they're going to have an easier schedule because they're going to be playing teams like.
That's true. That's a valid point.
Granted, the easy schedule is, but they're playing other teams that were in 4th place. But you get more games where you're playing teams that were bad last year. So I kind of agree with you. Denver's definitely trying to go to compete, but that's what they're saying they were missing: a head coach and a quarterback. I don't know how Hackett is, but I know Russell Wilson's solid.
I like the philosophy of the Broncos of where they don't want to say, oh, there are so many good quarterbacks, let's not try and compete. Like, no, like if they have a gun, I want to have a gun too. Don't be like, oh, if they have a gun, let me just do whatever they say. So I like that philosophy of like, hey, no, let's fight back. So I have no problem with Russell Wilson on the Broncos. It's a bold move. I'd rather a bold move instead of just being another team just waiting
for Mahomes to run through them.
Yeah.
And for Herbert
something like
to slaughter them.
It's not even just like, can you get through your division? It's more, can I get through every other team?
See, the thing is, like, in the AFC, there's so many good teams, but there's so many unknowns, too, because, like, the Colts are good, but they're a quarterback away. Mm-hmm. The Browns are good, but they're a quarterback away. The Steelers are good, they're a quarterback away. There's just so many that you're like, all right, what are they going to be at quarterback? Then we can assess who it is. Because of the way the league is this year, you need that quarterback to say, this is why we're going to be okay. This is why we're going to be good, because we can trust our quarterback, which is, again, why Denver said, let's go get Russell Wilson. Let's go get a 33-year-old quarterback that we already know is proven. We already know we have weapons for him. All we have to do is now shore up what we can, in free agency, say, hey, let's go get an O-line, but maybe even a little bit better. Maybe another new tight end because you lost Fant. And then shore up the defense.
I'm hesitant to say like it's enough, right, to come out of the AFC West. But I like Russell Wilson there because I feel like what they have already in Denver is similar to what Russell Wilson had in his early years in Seattle when they were successful. They've already built a solid defense. If they have Javonte Williams and bring back Melvin Gordon, they undoubtedly have a great running game. But even Javonte Williams was impressive enough last year on his own to say, that's a guy I'm giving the ball to 20 to 25 times a game if he can hold up. And so you use the run game, you played good defense, and you let Russell Wilson not have to carry you, but do what he needs to do. I definitely see them competing for a playoff spot. I don't know that they could get out of the West, but I do think getting Russell Wilson was a huge boost for them, and it puts them in the playoff conversation.
And like, it's not like they're going to get Rodgers at 39. They actually went and got Russell Wilson, who you're not trying to say, all right, well, now we got our 2-year window. Let's go win it in the crazy AFC West. You're like, all right, we got our guy. If you can keep him happy, you could, in theory, keep him 5-6 years. Like, that's your quarterback for the next half decade.